Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today I want to talk about the biggest elephant in the room that we have to actually discuss, which is how much the power creep has ascended in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Are we running the risk of Sarada, Sumire, and Mitsuki being left behind to where they can't contribute in the fights coming up ahead? This was a question that people began to ask as far back as when we saw Momoshiki take over Boruto's body in the Boro fight. Prior to that, Team 7 had been struggling to defeat Boro in a life or death battle, and while they were getting in some cheap shots on him, for the most part, it was clear if you read the fight closely that Boro wasn't going all out on them. However, once Sarada tagged him with her Chidori in the manga, by herself, no prior distraction like you saw in the anime, Boro saw that speed amp that came from her Chidori, and he went, oh crap, she's too fast, and she destroyed his ninja tech core before he could weave the hand seals in order to protect it. This led to Boro transforming and using his full power, which was enough that he showed Sasuke's assessment of Kara wasn't off the mark, which is that at their maximum, they're Otsutsuki level fighters. And when Boro went full power, each of the members of Team 7 was left near death, and it required Momoshiki to step in before all of them got killed. From that moment onward, it became a matter of when Sarada and Mitsuki fell behind Boruto and Kawaki, not if they fell behind. Code's revelation that neither Boruto or Kawaki was using karma correctly, it was huge because it was told to us that for as overpowered as karma appeared to be, neither of them was actually using karma in the correct way to draw to full power, which meant that they had an even higher tier to get to that hadn't been seen yet. Now with the events of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, we're seeing that just base Boruto himself is coming out of the time skip with a power level that doesn't just exceed 6 past Hokage Naruto and Rinnegan adult Sasuke, but he's also directly scaling over full power Jigen that used the karma seal because he's scaling over code. And that's where things get really interesting because we don't know how much stronger Boruto is going to get when he uses the karma seal. We just know these can be broken, and that brings us back to Mitsuki, Sarada, and Sumire. It's an issue. How can they keep up with Boruto if there are already people wondering how in the world was Kawaki going to be able to keep up with Boruto, and some people going so far as to say he can't actually keep up with Boruto. That's some of the beauty and the curse of the all ever so powerful shonen time skip. Characters can level up off screen in what is oftentimes the most dramatic of ways, growing tens of times to hundreds of times stronger than they were previously. This method is tried and tested, and it's worked countless times throughout the years, for better or for worse. Given how much Boruto draws from the Dragon Ball manga quite a bit, I tend to use Dragon Ball examples and talk about Boruto. So for instance, Yamcha went from a power level just above the Ginyu Force members minus Captain Ginyu, which means he was knocking on the door to close to 100,000 to, after 3 years worth of training, his power level, while it's unidentified numerically, was high enough that Dr. Gero and Android 19 saw Yamcha's power level, and they read it to a point that they expected that to be based on Goku. Someone like Piccolo went from being slightly stronger than second form Frieza to being stronger than Super Saiyan Goku from the Namek Saga in only 3 years worth of training. And then he would get another power up where he was able to stalemate Cyborg 17. However, to translate that into Boruto, if we run into the same situation with Sarada and Mitsuki, it can get tricky really fast. Base Boruto's now scaling over Naruto and Sasuke in full karma seal Jigen. He's absolutely cracked. Kawaki's more than likely going to scale directly to base Boruto when it comes to power if we continue with the same trajectory that these characters were ridden on in Boruto Naruto Next Generations, where base Kawaki was initially stronger than base Boruto, and it ended with base Boruto catching up to Kawaki but being weaker than Kawaki when both of them used the karma seal. Should this wind up being the case, we run into a major problem. That would mean on the high end that Mitsuki and Sarada, through whatever cross feats that are displayed, being relative to Boruto to Kawaki and base, that slides them up the scale to being higher than 6 past Naruto and Sasuke and full power Jigen. Basically one major jump in only 3 years of training, where each of these two went from being elite Jonin to being in the Jigen plus territory. Essentially, they get the bump in power that someone like Piccolo got in the Artificial Human Saga and in the Cell Saga, where he came out stronger than the prior powers that we saw in the last arc, and then proceeded to get a second boost in power when he fused with Kami and leapfrogged Goku and Vegeta in that arc before the Cell games, where he got surpassed again. However, I think the more likely approach that we see with Sarada and Sumire is that they do what Kishimoto did with the subcast of Naruto, similar to what Toriyama did with the subcast of Dragon Ball, but Kishimoto actually did a worse job, which is create a whole sub tier for the other characters and stagger them. So you had Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan all in their own S tiers by themselves. A la triple S tier for Goku, double S tier for Vegeta, S tier for Gohan, but when he got the power up in the form of Mystic Gohan, he got the quadruple S tier above his father Goku. Then you had everyone else in the littered tiers below that. The Namekian Piccolo was below all the Saiyans, and the humans were all in their own tier below Piccolo. Depending on the character, they were just strong enough to be of assistance to some of the threats that are faced in the story in the form of support roles, but they were too weak to make a difference in the final battle against the main bosses. Think of someone like, say, Might Guy. Great assist character, but ultimately well below someone like Paths Naruto. Naruto took this approach after we got into the story past volume 27, basically Naruto Shippuden. So prior to that, in Naruto Part 1, all the characters, they're given equal opportunity to shine. Even when they're outmatched like the Sasuke retrieval team, they still had their time to shine. However, when we moved into the Akatsuki level threats, starting at Naruto Volume 28 onward, it became the Naruto and Team 7 show, taking on the Akatsuki and killing them. Sasuke taking on Akatsuki members and killing them. Outside of the very short Akatsuki suppression arc where Shikamaru took revenge against Hidan and Kakuzu, the rest of the side cast from Naruto's generation, they were useless. If you were not in Team 7 or you did not take part in Team 10's revenge mission, you were useless. Even with the older generation like Guy and Kakashi and the generation that preceded them with Jiraiya, they were at least given some opportunity to show their worth. But you could see with each arc that passed, their power was getting pushed to the background, with the 3 members of Team 7 gaining ground on them, and eventually all 3 members of Team 7, Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura, they all eventually surpassed them. If we were to go that route of having Sarada and Mitsuki in a sub-tier below Boruto and Kawaki, basically they'd be the Piccolo to Boruto and Kawaki's Goku and Vegeta, that would technically have them in the position that they wanted to be in when we go back to Boruto, Naruto Next Generations Chapter 75. Sarada and Mitsuki want to be strong enough to assist in any fights with those Suzuki level characters. That way they would be strong enough to be included in the battles but not be viewed as dead weight. Their motivation to get stronger, it mirrored that of Sakura's in Naruto Volume 27, wanting to get strong enough that she wasn't left behind and is allowed to accompany her comrades in the quest to bring Sasuke back and ultimately defeat the Akatsuki. It's not going to shock me if we get some last minute power amp in the way that Sakura suddenly got a continuous power amp in the war and continue to get several mental amps to have her push through her limits, particularly after she stabilized her Byakugo seal. I don't think it's crazy to say we're going to be in that situation. Should something like that happen, depending on the method that it actually goes, going to leave a bad taste in the mouths of a lot of people, regardless as to if there's an in-universe answer or not, because it feels like the fandom, for the most part, they have their mind set on this subject. While I do think there are a couple things that do work for both characters, what it's ultimately going to come down to is going to be simple scaling, which despite what some people will disingenuously tell you, Boruto still has the same linear scaling you saw in Naruto. Replace Kekkei Genkai with Karma, you get the same thing. If 2 people are evenly matched fighting, if one of them has the Karma seal, guess who's going to win? Person with the Karma seal. If we see Sarada and Mitsuki are equal to or somewhat relative to base Boruto and Kawaki, where they aren't that much further behind or they're seemingly approaching Code's level of power, which goes over Jigen, then they'd be closer to Jigen's level, which works. They can fight against Otsutsuki. At the end of the day, a transformation is either an addition to your power, like we see at Sage Mode, where you're adding an equal amount of nature energy that your body has in the form of chakra, so you have to balance out the nature energy you're taking in. So say your chakra levels are at a level 100, you're adding in another 100 in the form of nature energy, which brings your overall level to 200. Or it's an emotions based multiplier like we see with the Mangekyo Sharingan, where the stronger the emotion, most often hate, the stronger the chakra and the powers become. Or it's an addition of the chakra that comes from the Mangekyo Sharingan that you transplant of a close relative, like we saw with Sasuke when he transplanted Itachi's eyes and immediately said he can feel Itachi's chakra flowing into him. Those boosts only matter as much as where the base powers are for those characters when they get those boosts. And that's really only going to be for the purpose of them being able to assist in the battles to come up ahead. While I'm personally not that worked up and hitting the panic button, the most we saw out of Sarada is that she used a Chidori to take out a group of Claw Grimes, and she used her fireball jutsu to take down another group. We haven't seen her fighting in a super serious manner. We haven't even seen her use a Mangekyo Sharingan. We literally have not seen Mitsuki in a fight. I think that's going to be the big thing. When we see them in a battle, and then we see Boruto and Kawaki fighting the same threat or a threat on the same level or slightly above it, then you have something to compare. However, that's just how I see it right now. I think there's more panic than anything else, but I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts on this. While you think that over, click here to watch these other Naruto Explained videos.